Hey, it's me, Kevin. I just landed back from my check ride becoming an instrument pilot, and I saw this notice that potentially there are talks that maybe the Doge team and Donald Trump could maybe be in talks to issue some kind of Doge refund to American taxpayers. And this is really interesting because I've been studying a lot of what Doge has been doing and what Doge hasn't been doing, and I'm a big fan of cutting waste where there's waste to be cut, and I'm a huge fan of transparency. And so, this suggestion, though, is a game changer. This changes everything, because all of a sudden now what you're doing is you're actually aligning Doge with really what I think Americans were inspired by, and that is what we save, we will help give back to you. Now, this has, of course, been confuddled in the media with this idea that, well, I mean, discretionary budget of the United States is only, 20% or 25% of the U.S. government spending. 50% goes to entitlement programs, which, I mean, we paid into them, so of course we're entitled to them. And then, a bunch goes to, about 25% goes to the military, and then we've got discretionary funds, and some of those things we got to pay for. A good portion of our budget goes to just paying for this unsustainable national debt that we have. But I think a big fear was that, A, it wouldn't be feasible to actually see real cuts, meaningful. Look, you kill USAID, great, awesome. Kill all foreign aid. It amounts to $196 refund, if you will, per person living in America, right? Per citizen in America, or green card resident or taxpayer, however you want to look at it. So the difference is nominal. However, this suggestion about going deeper and saying, hey, you know what? We've actually taxed you too much, and we're now going to try to find a way to get back to essentially a smaller form of government. In exchange, give it back to the American taxpayers in the form of a tax refund. This is actually quite brilliant because, see, government spending is almost intentionally wasteful. One of the reasons it's almost intentionally wasteful, and I'm not, shilling for government spending by any means, but one of the reasons government spending is intentionally wasteful is because it's so wasteful that it actually becomes stimulative. So if you're getting showered, your NGO or whatever government contract is getting showered in this government money, and the government actually isn't getting their value for it, yeah, technically that's a dead weight loss because you're actually taking $100 from you in taxes, you're giving it to the government, who then, deficit spends $150, but maybe only $90 actually go into GDP spending. That's still $90 of stimulus. So they basically took a $90 stimulus check from you and gave it to somebody else. So there is a dead weight loss in government spending, inherently. And I'm not a proponent of zero government, but the capitalistic POV, whether you're a Keynesian or an Austrian, the bottom line is the Keynesian or Austrian view. So no matter which economic model you look at, when we look at capitalism, we generally see that smaller government equals less deadweight loss. Now, the Keynesians argue that the government intervention and that deadweight loss for some is worth it for the benefit of others, right? Such as this idea that, well, maybe the government can minimize put a lid on an economic boom so you don't have sort of a 2008 bubble or 2005 bubble up, right? And then we try to stimulate in the low times and we try to minimize the ups and downs. Austrians are like, nah, man, let the free market economy handle it. And it's fine. They're both economic schools of thought based on this idea of capitalism, not socialism or Marxism or whatever. But if you think if you think of government spending, whether it's to, whether it's to foreign aid, or whether it's to some NGO, or whether it's to some government contract that's really frivolous, like it's for $150, soap dispensers in military Boeings, that wasteful form of government spending is so bad that it actually turns into stimulus, whether that is in the form of corporate profits and then share buybacks and corporate executives getting rich and blowing money, or the people who are receiving the contracts, the people who are receiving the pay, or the people who work for the government who, there are some obviously who just can't justify their existence or they don't do anything. Hopefully that's part of the smaller minority, but who knows? I guess we'll find out when we actually get more transparent details. But see, really, I believe this is a massive game changer because when you say, look, rather than me tax you the $100, why don't I just give you the $100 back and then not tax you that $100 next year? Well, then in effect, you are not stimulating to the tune of that $90 because you don't have that deadweight loss, that delta we talked about. Instead, you're stimulating to the tune of $100. So really, you could actually potentially grow the economy. See, one concern that a lot of folks have, rightfully so, is that, hey, if government spending contributes over 47% of gross domestic product, now obviously we know consumers make up 70-ish% of the of GDP, but if that is funneled in, to the tune of 47% by government spending, again through entitlement programs or whatever, or just like even subsistence spending, food stamps or whatever it is. Point is, if government spending contributes to half of GDP, then let's just pick a number. Maybe it's 47%, but let's just make it even. Let's say it's 50%. But let's say that comes with a deadweight loss of 5% because the government is inefficient. Maybe it's even more than that deadweight loss. Maybe it's a 10% deadweight loss, right? Instead, you return that to Americans. Well, then you potentially actually have this boost of 5 or 10% of spending. So instead of government, facilitating 50% of GDP, they could actually, in effect, be facilitating 60% of GDP. So you could actually see a GDP explosion and an optimism boom in that people are going to get taxed less and they keep more of their own money. This is something I could really get behind. This I like. The idea of, rich suits in Silicon Valley collecting more of, government cuts to line their own interests. Like, yeah, build those AI chip factories for us, and give more stimulus to our, government contracted and government supported entities. That rubs me a little the wrong way because I feel like you're robbing the core American, the person making, ends meet by working their ass off, and prices are going up and they're frustrated and they're pissed off and they're seeing crime go unpunished. This idea, essentially, of a tax refund or tax stimulus, you're going to have some people argue, oh my gosh, it's going to be inflationary, which, if it's not measured in the way it's provided, could be inflationary. But remember, I'm actually a believer that the reason we had a lot of the inflation that we had is because we had supply chains that weren't really built out. They weren't prepared for the type of volume of orders that actually came during COVID, especially when people were making money for doing nothing. And so what's interesting is now we actually have an oversupply of factories and businesses that are ready and willing to serve Americans with more money. So it's kind of like, imagine you gained 500 pounds and you were still alive, and then you lost it all really rapidly. You'd have some extra sag there, right? Imagine that extra sag is extra production for the U.S. economy. Well, you could fill that up without expanding, without, frankly, inflating, like the flab just fills up again, but you don't have to expand what's already there. Now, that may not be the most ungruesome example, but from an economist's point of view, from an economic point of view, can we say that the government creates deadweight loss? Yes. Can we say that the government would just be better off taxing us less? Yeah, absolutely. Now, does that mean there shouldn't be regulations? Like, should lenders be able to give people who can't ever expect to afford their payments back? Should that be a possibility to the tune where they have no assets to secure? I'm not talking about like real estate backed debt. I'm talking about even just like personal neg-am loans that are just based on your social, and they have, you get a $50,000, $100,000 loan, yet you make $20,000 a year. Should things like that be allowed? An analogy, by the way, there is student loans. Should students making $20,000 a year working at, Jamba Juice or as a server be eligible for $50,000 to $100,000 loans? I think not. I think that's a scam. If you have an asset and you're leveraging an asset, that's different. But then you should also have some form of transparent disclosure. Like, you shouldn't have a loan that starts you off at a 0% interest rate or a negative percent interest rate, and then adjusts suddenly in the future, and then you get foreclosed on when you can't repay right when the bank wants it. That's a scam, right? That's actually something that, like, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was created to prevent from happening. So I do have some concerns that you could actually create a bubble up of malinvestment and mal-lending. But honestly, the free market does handle that. I mean, 2008 was an example of the free market solving that and correcting that problem. The issue is it just comes with a lot of pain. This is why Austrians say, nah, man, let the free market handle it. And this is why Keynesians are like, nah, man, the free market's going to F it up. And so this is why this debate exists. And to some extent, you could argue that, the Obama Democrats, which I think are very different from, some other Democrats. I think the Obama Democrats are level-headed and reasonable in this sense. I actually don't think they're sort of the extreme Dem. They're more of like, no, the government should be there to help, and we cut around the edges when we make cuts. And then you have, sort of the counter to that, which right now appears to be the more Muskian approach, which is, nah, man, just give the people their damn money back and stop wasting the damn money. There are ups and downs to everything here, but the bottom line of this, if this is truly the direction that we're going to go, this is a fantastic win for the American people. And frankly, it makes me very, very bullish on the future of the economy. This is a GDP contributor in an era where it won't necessarily be inflationary. It depends how they do it. If it's like, look, in 2021, I had to write a check for like $11 million in taxes. That's insane. That was the check for taxes alone. I got taxed like 60%. Thanks to, California in part, but the federal government was responsible for 41% of the tax, and the California government was responsible for like 12.6% of the tax. So, the federal government took most of my money. I just chose to live in California because my wife and my 7 children, and yeah, even a little bit more. But would it be stimulative? Could more people be hired and more businesses created if there were lower taxes? Absolutely. And if this comes back in the form of a refund or just frankly larger tax cuts in the future, big fan. Count me in. I think this is wonderful. No, sorry I didn't get dressed up for this or whatever. Honestly, I'm a little overwhelmed in just like how hard it was to study and get ready for my instrument check ride to become an instrument-rated pilot. This is a serious profession, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. But I am excited to be back. And leave a comment down below. What kind of video would you like? Do you want to see some beginner finance videos? Do you want to see some real estate videos? Do you want to... probably more like next month, I'm going to be flying again next month. Do you want me to go fly around to some of our house hack properties and do some videos on those? We could do that as well, or even just review Matterport scans from the studio. We could do that. Leave me a comment down below. Let me see what you want to hear, what you want to see, and let me see how I can help you out. Thank you so much for watching and supporting. We'll see y'all soon. Bye.